On 5 News, doctors accused.
Not safe, not fair, not safe, not fair.
The Prime Minister slams medics' plans for 5-day strikes, saying they're playing politics with patients' lives. So what do the patients think?
5-day strike the week after next?
Well, if that's what they've got to do to get what they want, then yeah.
No, I don't believe it. No.
Well, 5 days is too long.
Yes, too long.
We'll tell you just how disruptive the walkout could be. Also, the lives wiped out when a police chase went wrong. 10-year-old Micaiah McDermott and his aunt Roseanne Cooper were killed when a car being pursued by officers crashed into them.
We will build a great wall along the southern border.
Donald Trump's charm offensive with Mexico doesn't last long as he promises to make America's neighbor pay for a huge wall on the border if he becomes president. The Smiler strikes again. Passengers are left stranded after Alton Towers' controversial attraction stops mid-ride. And would you vote for this man? 5 News meets the die-hard Corbyn fans who think he should be the next Prime Minister.
His opponents hope this contest would show the Corbyn mania of last year had diminished. The evidence here in Stoke this afternoon is it hasn't.
Hello, welcome to 5 News. I'm Matt Barbett. The row between junior doctors and the government is deepening as hospitals in England prepare for the biggest round of strikes yet. Theresa May is accusing the British Medical Association of playing politics by announcing 5 consecutive days of walkouts starting a week on Monday. Hospital bosses have criticised the short notice as well, but with patients ultimately affected, do they still have sympathy for the junior doctors? Simon Viger has been finding out.
Not safe, not fair, not safe, not fair.
We thought all this had come to an end in May. We were wrong. The deal brokered at the conciliation service ACAS was then rejected by a majority of junior doctors in England. They've now called a record 5-day strike beginning Monday week. And in my unscientific survey at Homerton Hospital in East London, they still have broad public support.
You know, we've just had one with my grandmother right now, and they were, the junior doctor was, you know, just so sleep deprived, but just wanted to continue just so they could finish their course.
We don't want to return to, you know, the 80-hour working week. I mean, they still do a lot of that, don't they?
And a 5-day strike the week after next?
Well, if that's what they've got to do to get what they want, then yeah.
I think that people should still stick by hospital staff. These doctors are being pushed around too much.
No, I don't believe it. No.
Well, 5 days is too long.
Yes, too long.
The sticking point again is terms and conditions. The BMA says in particular junior doctors who are young mothers will be far worse off. The Prime Minister, who was visiting Solihull today, is standing firm.
The government is putting patients first. The BMA should be putting patients first, not playing politics.
The junior doctors leader who recommended the last deal has resigned. His successor told me they are united. How close was the vote here going ahead for this strike?
So the Junior Doctors Committee put a proposal to Council, and Council endorsed that proposal.
How close was it?
It was voted through by Council, and Council support the decision.
Are you confident that this strike will be solid?
Junior doctors have rejected the contract, and they have told us that they can support continuing industrial action.
Yet again, both sides have dug in, and it's very hard to see a way out before the next round of strikes.
Simon, of course, a 5-day strike is going to be disruptive, but just how disruptive?
Yeah, it's unprecedented, Matt, and hospitals have had the least notice for this one, the 5 days. They reckon around 100,000 routine operations like hip operations are going to be postponed and around 1 million appointments cancelled. Of course, the consultants can cover like they have in the past, but they can't do it forever because it has ramifications for the rest of the hospital, and everything will, apart from the urgent stuff, will just grind to a halt. No plans for ACAS talks yet, and worth stressing this is England only. In Scotland and Wales, no strikes, and Northern Ireland yet to decide.
Simon, many thanks. The young boy and his aunt who were killed by a suspected stolen car in South London yesterday have been named. 10-year-old Micaiah McDermott was hoping to be an actor. He recently auditioned to be in a TV series. He died with 34-year-old Rosie Cooper when they were hit by the car as it was being chased by police. Dominic Reynolds reports.
His life was just getting started. Yesterday, it ended on a London pavement. Micaiah McDermott was 10. He and his aunt, Rosie Cooper, died because they were in the wrong place. Today, that place slowly filled up with flowers. Mums and children trying to take in that a family they know has been broken simply by chance.
People used to get me and him mixed up because we both had afros.
Nathan was a friend of Micaiah. He said he was good at making other kids happy.
He was funny because he always used to make jokes out of something that people make arguments out of, so then they wouldn't get into arguments.
So he sort of made peace?
Yeah. He was a kind friend. He was understanding, funny.
The car that killed budding actor Micaiah and Rosie also hit 3 girls, thought to be his sisters and her daughter, there in hospital. Police were pursuing the car when it mounted the pavement. They suspected it was stolen. Where that cone is today, yesterday there was a bollard, but the car crashed through it after it lost control around this corner. Friends of the family have told me they were only on the pavement at all because they were on their way to the park. It's only 50 yards away. The incidents put the spotlight on how police make suspected criminals stop on the road. 21 people died in connection with road pursuits last year. They are inherently unpredictable, says the man who used to train officers behind the wheel.
The difficulty is that if you're in the vehicle behind the person being pursued, you have no idea what's going through their mind, none whatsoever. They could be close to breaking point. They could be close to the point where they're actually going to sort of just stop and run away or crash into something, and you have no way of knowing.
The 23-year-old driver of the car is in custody, arrested on suspicion of causing death by dangerous driving, and the police watchdog is investigating what happened. All the while, the flowers continue to arrive with their messages. Such a tragedy, taken too soon. Dominic Reynolds, 5 News in South East London.
A man has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a 30-year-old was allegedly punched in South East London. Oliver Dearlove was attacked while waiting for a taxi in Blackheath at the weekend. Witnesses say he collapsed after being struck in front of his friends. Britain's manufacturing sector has made a surprisingly strong recovery. New figures show that last month growth was at its highest level for nearly a year, largely because a fall in the pound has helped improve exports. And an unmanned rocket has exploded on the launch pad during a routine test firing in Florida. The Falcon 9 was supposed to be lifting off from Cape Canaveral on Saturday. The blast shook buildings several miles away and sent plumes of thick black smoke into the air, but luckily no one was injured. But just hours after what looked like amiable talks between the two, Donald Trump and the Mexican president appear to have fallen out again. The reason? Mr. Trump's insistence that if he becomes US president, he will build a wall between the two countries and make Mexico pay for it. Enrique Peña Nieto says he made it clear that wouldn't be the case. As Louise Beale reports now, Mr. Trump has been talking even tougher on immigration.
Back to his most bullish. Giving a major speech on immigration at a rally in Phoenix, Donald Trump insisted to a cheering crowd that Mexico will pay for a border wall.
We will begin working on an impenetrable, physical, tall, powerful, beautiful southern border wall. And Mexico will pay for the wall.
It comes literally just hours after the presidential hopeful had travelled to Mexico to meet with the Mexican president. He was greeted by some protesters after he'd labelled Mexicans drug addicts, criminals and rapists in the past. But despite that, his visit and his tone were far calmer and conciliatory.
We did discuss the wall. We didn't discuss payment of the wall. That'll be for a later date. This was a very preliminary meeting. I think it was an excellent meeting.
But after Trump's comments at the rally, Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto has hit back, tweeting, "At the beginning of the conversation with Donald Trump, I made it clear that Mexico will not pay for the wall." Trump has now responded, tweeting, "Mexico will pay for the wall." Many say his behaviour is classic Trump, and he won't care if he's criticised for it.
The fact that he's saying one thing or seeming to say one thing on one side of the border and seeming to say something else on the other side of the border, that's fine with him. To the extent that he gets critical coverage that points out the difference between it, his supporters will dismiss it as perhaps the news media being too critical of him and kind of zeroing in on him and attacking him.
Yet his rival Hillary Clinton, who he is trailing behind in the polls, says the way he's acting towards Mexico just isn't right.
It certainly takes more than trying to make up for a year of insults and insinuations by dropping in on our neighbors for a few hours and then flying home again. That is not how it works.
Another day and another speech. Just this afternoon, Trump has reiterated his plan to build a wall on the Mexican border. Anyone hoping he'd soften his stance during his campaign looks to be disappointed. Louise Beale, 5 News.
Now, the rollercoaster ride that crashed at Alton Towers last year has broken down again. This time, dozens of people have been left trapped in a carriage at an awkward angle after it was stopped mid-ride. Warren Ettelford is with me now. Warren, what happened?
Well, the key thing is nobody was hurt. All 32 people who were on the ride, the Smiler ride at Alton Towers, were led to safety by staff there this afternoon. Now, some video on social media has emerged which shows the awkward position that those on the ride were in when it stopped. Alton Towers say they temporarily stopped the ride to investigate claims that a piece of debris, we're not sure what it was, fell from a carriage. They also say at no time were guests at risk. But of course, this incident only comes just over a year since the devastating crash on the same ride, which left 5 people with life-changing injuries. 2 had leg amputations, and Alton Towers were actually admitted breaching the Health and Safety Act following an investigation. The ride only reopened in March. We're not sure when the ride is going to reopen again after this.
OK, Warren, many thanks. Still to come on the programme.
Yes, we can! Yes, we can!
We find out why Jeremy Corbyn's supporters believe he could be the next Prime Minister.
I want to break free!
And the legend that was Freddie Mercury. 5 News goes back to where it all began. That's coming up after the break. Welcome back, you're watching 5 News. Now, it's not even a year since Jeremy Corbyn was elected as the Labour leader, and right now he's fighting to do it all over again. Despite minimal backing from his own MPs and poor polling nationally, his supporters think they can get him all the way to number 10. Our political editor Andy Bell has been meeting them.
I'd like a massive Stoke-on-Trent welcome to Jeremy Corbyn.
Is there another politician in Britain who could summon a crowd like this? Jeremy Corbyn is back having to fight for his leadership just a year after winning it, because 4 out of 5 Labour MPs say they have no confidence he could win a general election. He and they think otherwise.
We have won all the parliamentary by-elections we've faced, we've won all the mayoral elections we've faced, we've beat the Tories in the local government elections, and we recruited 300,000 members to the Labour Party.
His opponents hope this contest would show the Corbyn mania of last year had diminished. The evidence here in Stoke this afternoon is it hasn't.
There's no doubting the support here, but is that enough?
What about the fact that so many Labour MPs say they can't work with Jeremy Corbyn? Does that worry you?
Let's hope he gets rid of him. Let's hope he gets rid of him when he gets voted in as leader and they get deselected and some people who support him get put in.
All these people in the Parliamentary Labour Party are worried about are their tickets being thrown off the gravy train. They're going to get kicked off the gravy train.
He's got the backing of all of his members, and somehow that should be enough.
OK, but I mean, they presumably don't think he can win an election. That's what they're worried about.
He can win an election, definitely. He's got all of us behind him.
Barely 200 metres away from the rally, a different atmosphere and some different views of the Labour leader.
Jeremy Corbyn, what do you think?
Not a lot.
Not a lot?
No.
Yeah, she told you, rubbish.
Rubbish?
Yeah.
OK, you don't think he can win an election?
No.
It's just very nice, I like it.
Yeah. Do you think he can win an election?
Well, so, I'm not sure.
OK. What do you think?
Not bad.
What do you like about him?
He's honest.
No.
No.
I wouldn't.
Sorry.
You wouldn't sort of think, wow, the next Prime Minister.
That is a challenge, but if this is anything to go by, he will be the leader, taking Labour into the next election. Andy Bell, 5 News, Stoke-on-Trent.
Now, when Dean Smarn contracted the form of blood poisoning known as sepsis, doctors gave him just a 5% chance of surviving. They had to make several amputations, but slowly, and with the help of his partner, he pulled through. And the good news has kept on coming, as Ruth Liptrot explains.
In Dean Smarn's career as a police officer, he received the Queen's Gallantry Medal for his work in Northern Ireland. He was also a talented athlete. This is him competing in the javelin. But then he developed sepsis, and it changed everything. The disease meant he lost both of his legs, 8 fingers and part of his nose. And these pictures show the extent of the infection.
It was just a really, really traumatic experience just to be told, you know, we're going to amputate your legs.
His recovery meant 30 operations in 2 years, but coming to terms with what had happened took even longer.
We've come out the other side, we've learned a lot, and you know, we're so fortunate. We're really, really fortunate to be in this side, to think that you could even help one person. I'm sure that's job done.
Even though sepsis kills 44,000 people a year, many of us still don't know what it is.
Sepsis, or as it's more commonly known, blood poisoning, is the reaction to an infection in which the body attacks its own organs and tissues.
So how can we spot it? Well, here's what you need to look out for. Either a high or low temperature, fast heartbeat and rapid breathing, possible dizziness, vomiting and diarrhoea. And if you do suspect sepsis, you should see a doctor straight away. One of the most remarkable things about Dean's story is that he'd only met his girlfriend Kirsty 7 weeks before he became ill. Not only did she stick by him, but the pair are now married, and thanks to his prosthetics, he was able to walk down the aisle.
I think there's a message about what love can do for people and how important it is for us to help one another. But I think, you know, the most important message that we want to raise is about sepsis.
And that's not all. Following IVF, the couple are now expecting their first child.
You know, the baby is just probably the icing on the cake for us. Because of the prosthetics and because of the help that I will have in place, it means that I'll be very much a part of that child's life.
And after what this couple have been through, nappy changes and sleepless nights are going to feel like a walk in the park. Ruth Liptrot, 5 News.
They will indeed. Good luck to them both with that. Prince William has got close to a fan while on a visit to Cornwall. After pulling him in for a kiss and a hug, which he obliged with, the woman told William she'd met his mum and how much he looked like her. William replied that Diana was in fact better looking. He and Kate are making a 2-day visit to the county to learn all about the Duchy of Cornwall, which William will one day inherit from his father when he becomes king. More on rock royalty now, and to his neighbours, he was simply Freddie Bulsara of 22 Gladstone Avenue, Feltham, London. He became known to the world as the legendary lead singer of Queen, Freddie Mercury. And today that house where he lived with his parents has been commemorated with a blue plaque. Freddie's bandmate, guitarist Brian May, and his sister have been giving an insight into the boy wonder. Minnie Stevenson has been along.
Don't stop me, 'cause I'm having a good time, having a good time.
Freddie Mercury, the ultimate frontman, immortalised by a back catalogue of songs which have made millions want to get up and dance. But before superstardom, the late rock star lived on this suburban street in Feltham, West London, where today at his once family home, his Queen bandmate Brian May and his sister Kashmira Cook unveiled an English heritage blue plaque in his honour. Afterwards, Brian May told me he still misses Freddie every day.
What do you think Freddie would make of all of this fuss? Stansted on the street.
He'd love it. It's not quite enough, darling. Yeah, he would be proud. There's no doubt. You know, Freddie wouldn't say that much, but he would be proud, you know, and he loved his mum to be proud and his family to be proud, and us too.
Freddie's family moved to number 22 Gladstone Avenue from Zanzibar when he was just 17. His sister Kashmira says she has so many memories here.
I mean, the hair started getting longer, hence why he would be grooming it quite a long time, much to my annoyance because there was only one bathroom. But at the same time, he was very He used to spoil me a lot. He used to buy me gifts. He was so generous. That's the way I remember him, a very generous brother.
Back in the 60s, this was Freddie posing in his bedroom as Jimi Hendrix. No one could have known then that this frustrated rock star would go on to be one of the greats. Listening to Hendrix records at Freddie's house is something Brian May will never forget.
I do remember clustering around his little record player, his little Dansette record player, and listening to Jimi Hendrix and listening to the Beatles, the White Album. But we were very close, we were like family, and losing him was and is just like losing one of your close family, yeah.
Freddie Mercury once said, "I won't be a rock star, I will be a legend." And he is. Minnie Stevenson, 5 News.
Really is. Who doesn't love Queen? That's it for now. I'll be back at 6:30 when I'll be speaking to space expert Sarah Cruthers about that rocket explosion at Cape Canaveral. And if you were the victim of a violent crime, would you really want to meet your attacker? As MPs say all victims should be allowed to do so if they want, I'll be speaking to Paul Kohler, who forgave one of the men who beat him up really badly in his home after meeting him in prison. As at 6:30, Sean Welby, though, is here with the weather next. I'll be back with 5 News tonight in an hour. For now, thanks for watching. See you again later. Bye-bye.